everybody, whether they realize it or not, has a worldview. In that worldview, something is going to be ultimate that provides for all things that are not ultimate and dependent. So what you have is, we have two kinds of facts, okay? We have fact one, that which is ultimate and non-dependent. Number two, we have facts that are dependent and derivative of that which is ultimate and non-dependent.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yes.
So is this basically saying things that we assume to be true as kind of the basis of our worldview, and then things that come from that assumption?
Everybody has a web of beliefs, and they're one of their most foundational beliefs. The most foundational belief is whatever somebody considers to be ultimate, that is the origin point and basis for all dependencies. Now, everybody has a worldview. That worldview is a network of beliefs. It's a spider's web of beliefs. They're interconnected. Some of those beliefs are more foundational than others. Some of those beliefs you can change quickly. Other beliefs, it takes a great deal of difficulty to change it. And some of those beliefs are rock solid, and you would have to abandon your worldview to change your most foundational belief.
Okay, that makes sense. I agree completely with what you said so far. I'm totally on board.
So we're talking about a worldview. A worldview is that which is ultimate and that which is derived from what is ultimate. Okay, that which is derivative, things that begin to exist. Now, when we talk about God, God philosophically is designated as that which is ultimate. Okay, that's why we call it the creation distinction. The creator is that which is ultimate. The creation is the set of all facts that begin to exist. That's what we call the creation. Okay? They are dependencies. They are derivative. They begin to exist. Now, if somebody comes along and says, well, I do not accept that God exists, but I don't assert that he doesn't exist. Philosophically, whether the person realizes it or not, that is an indirect denial of the existence of God. You can deny God without intending to deny God.
And I mean, if what you're saying is, I disagree. Regardless, I think that if what you're saying is true, then I clearly am a denier of God, I guess.
Right. Now, if you do not accept the creator-creation distinction, then you are operating from a worldview of not the creator-creation distinction. You will have in mind that there is some other ultimacy, even if it is nebulous and unclear to you. Okay?
I can go with that.
So you cannot be neutral toward God. The non-acceptance of God in the creator-creation distinction is either a direct or an indirect denial of the existence of God.
Okay. I mean,
so hold on a second. So when I hold to the God worldview, I presuppose the falsity of every other worldview, because every other worldview, regardless of their flavor, is a not God worldview. Okay? Now, suppose you hold to worldview Q, right? And it doesn't matter what worldview Q is, but Q is going to represent what is ultimate and its derivatives. You presuppose the falsity of worldview not Q.
This is where I have a little bit of a problem. So I'm not sure you're wrong.
Okay, sorry. Are you familiar with the laws of logic?
Yes.
Okay, you have the law of identity, the law of non-contradiction, and the law of excluded middle. Okay, law of identity is A equals A. Law of non-contradiction, A cannot equal not A. And the law of excluded middle, something is either A or it is not A. Okay? Now, you cannot hold to worldview Q and worldview not Q at the same time in the same sense. Listen to me.
Okay.
You will either hold that Q as a worldview is false, or you will hold that it is not false. There is no neutrality. You have in mind an ultimacy of reality. We could designate that by a letter of the alphabet. We'll say it's worldview K. Whether or not you're clear or fuzzy on it, it makes no difference. Any worldview in terms of its foundation, right, that is not K, you reject because you affirm that K is actual. K, as a worldview, is that which will provide the framework and the ultimate context for the actuality and intelligibility of facts. So you cannot hold to the truthfulness of worldview K and not K. Okay? Because that would be a violation of the law of excluded middle. So you will either hold that Q or K is actual, or you will deny it, right? Because of your worldview, right? Now, if I ask you, is there gold on Mars? You could say, I don't know. And I could not legitimately accuse you of denying that there's gold on Mars, because you can be neutral about some things. But when it comes to a worldview, that which is the context that provides for the intelligibility and the actuality of facts that you speak, you can't be neutral about that. So when you speak, if you say bananas are soft or cats are furry, whatever proposition comes out of your mouth, it will only be actual, intelligible in virtue of what is ultimate in reality and is the true worldview. So you will hold to a specific designation of that worldview, and that's what you reason from, whether you realize it or not. And any worldview that you don't hold to, you will presuppose its falsity. Because if you say that you don't, then that means that you would be holding that worldview Q and worldview not Q are both true at the same time. That would be a violation of the law of excluded middle. So if you don't accept the creator-creation distinction, then you presuppose its falsity even if you're not aware of it. Okay? It doesn't matter if somebody utters a fallacy and they're not aware of the fallacy. Will it still be a fallacy even though they're unaware that they've committed a fallacy? Well, the answer is yes. So one's position, whether we're cognizant of it or not, will presuppose the falsity of all other worldviews other than our own. So if you don't accept the Christian worldview, the creator-creation distinction, then you presuppose its falsity. And so then you will be speaking from the not God worldview, whether you admit it or not, whether you want to realize it or not. Are we clear now?
I guess I understand what you're saying.
So now, when it comes to the denial of the Christian worldview, the Christian worldview did not begin 2,000 years ago. The Christian worldview began at Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And the Christian worldview is all-encompassing. It starts in Genesis 1:1, and it ends with Revelation chapter 22. Okay? We either accept it on the whole or we reject it. You can't take it by piecemeal. So, if you don't accept the Christian worldview, then philosophically, it is the denial of the Christian worldview. You understand?
Yeah.
Good. Now, the problem with that, it is impossible to deny the Christian worldview. And the reason why it is impossible is because in order to affirm or deny anything, you're going to have to know what the ultimacy of reality is from which all possibility and impossibility derive. So if I tell you that water freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Celsius, that possibility, okay, is in virtue of the nature of reality, okay, such as chemistry and physics. But chemistry and physics are only going to exist in virtue of what is ultimate that provides for those states of affairs. Okay? So if somebody comes along and says, I don't accept the Christian worldview, it's not that they're rejecting a claim, because it's not any claim at all. It is a stipulation of a worldview. Okay? Talking about gold on Mars, or even for that matter, aliens on another planet, is not a worldview. So there are some things that you can be neutral about, and there are some things that you cannot be neutral about. And for those things that you cannot be neutral about, you will either accept or deny it. There is no middle ground. Okay? Because you have a worldview and I have a worldview. And if you deny the Christian worldview, then you're going to have to explain what the ultimate framework, what the ultimate context is for your predications and your facts. Because the actuality and intelligibility of facts is only going to be in virtue of your model of reality and what is ultimate and that provides for those facts. But without the God of the Bible and his property set, there would be no way for you to know what the ultimacy of reality is. Number two, you couldn't know what the ultimacy of reality is when you deny the God of the Bible, is because no such ultimacy of reality exists that is not God. And that's why it's impossible. Now, you can say, oh, no, I don't accept what you're saying. Now, if you don't accept what I'm saying, then you're throwing down the gauntlet and saying you can deny Christianity. You can deny the creator-creation distinction. Good. Then explain to me what the ultimacy of reality is. Think you can do that? See, because if you don't identify for me what the ultimacy of reality is, then you're going to concede that you do not have a framework. You do not have a canvas upon which to place paint or pigment. You do not have chess pieces to place on a chessboard. If you're going to invoke what is possible or impossible, that requires a framework. Okay? So this is why it is impossible to deny Christianity. And that's why Christianity is true, due to the impossibility of its denial. And if somebody says, no, I don't accept that, right? Hold on a second. If somebody says, no, I don't accept that, I don't have a good reason to believe that, even that statement is unintelligible. And the reason why is, to even make the statement, I don't have a good reason to believe in God, is going to require an ultimate framework. No framework, and you don't have intelligibility for propositions.